Hi guys, I thought I'd have a quick conversation about a bit of a subject everyone talks about, which is deadlifting, more specifically, the back position during a deadlift, okay? So I coach this, and it depends on coaching, and that's an important part. Everything always depends. It's always just in case, right? So I coach a deadlift for the majority of people to have a straight back. Now, most people are looking at lumbar, so that lower half of our back. And inevitably, some people will come on, well, this person doesn't do this person does that. Now, I want to clarify some factors for you, so you understand kind of where I and other coaches will come from in this perspective, and understand why, yes, we say that, but that's not truly what we necessarily mean, and our words will be changed depending on who we talk to. At least that's how I deal with things. So when I talk about a straight back, I'm talking about coaching somebody to not have their back relaxed and flexed. So you'll see a lot of good deadlifters, really good deadlifters, particularly raw ones, with that curvature of the spine, which is absolutely fine, especially if it's thoracic. Extra length in the arms in that glenohumeral joint, keeping your traps down. But what's really important to notice or note when people are doing this is that they're not relaxed. No part of their back is floppy. It's tense. They're tensing the lats, tensing as much of that musculature as they possibly can, and they've trained the ability to do that, right? So when we're talking about, and when I'm particularly talking about deadlifting with a straight back, apart from like regular deadlifts, not stiff legs, obviously have an arched back and hamstring stretch, etc., blah, blah, blah. But when we're talking about a regular deadlift, conventional deadlift, having that straight back position or coaching that, knowing as a coach that's not going to necessarily happen and they're going to be flexed through, but the idea is the intent is to push that through, because nobody will go into a deadlift and purposely round over and stay rounded over, especially for competition lifters, because you have to erect at some point, right? So I think my point is, or I'm saying is, even though I perhaps coach general populations, is generally who I see, people who aren't deadlifting 300 pounds, let alone 500, 600, 700 pound lifters, that I coach a straight back, knowing that it's going to be flexion, it's going to be a rounding of the back. We're trying to round naturally, if you will, and allowing that to happen, because when we have our lats tensed and our thought process is driving your hips and your ribs through on the way upwards and kind of wedging into that bar, that's going to keep our position how we want it to be, rather than just staying flapped over like a cow shitting in the woods or a dog shitting on the floor. That's what they talk about, isn't it? Particularly all these people strapped up and stuff. So what I'm saying is, just because my words might say something to a lifter you don't know nothing about, or to a person you don't know nothing about, doesn't necessarily mean I'm coaching that. So I have a friend of mine who's strong deadlifter, really strong back. He has some issues with his knees and stuff. So, but he pulled over 300 comfortably, hitting reps with sort of 600 pounds. He's almost at 7. You'll see him, or if you know who he is, I'm not going to name names. We have this debate all the time, and it's quite fun to have a conversation with people. When we talk about this flexion of the back, his back is rounded, but it doesn't really move. Now, we're not talking about micro movements and actual movements you can't physically see, but we're talking about excessive movements that you're relaxed under. Because if that's the point, if you're relaxed under a heavy deadlift, and you're pulling off the floor, it's gonna be a point where your back just goes fuck and just goes. In that position, even though he's rounded over, and all your strong deadlifts are rounded over, they're tensed, all right, and they're lifting and they're braced and everything's tight and switched on and engaged. When I coach straight back, and I'm trying to keep people from relaxing the back, and the words I might say might not be textbook, but they work for the people I'm coaching. And I think that's one thing people really forget about, is that coaching people are individual. So I will say things to people that will work for one person, but not work for another person. That's fine. Reality is, coaching is difficult, and you have to come out of the shell, and you have to kind of teach people on an individual basis, no matter whether the words seem wrong or not. So I tell people to keep it straight back. I know they're not going to keep it straight back, or open the knees, or open the hips. even though that's not necessarily true, but what we're trying to do is elicit a response from that. So whether or not it's keeping our butt squeezed, whether or not keeping our core tighter, or whatever it is we're trying to do, is you're working through things in your head as a coach, as a trainer, to help that person get better rather than the masses. Because you get general rules for the masses and stuff, that's fine, but everything I say comes down to individual basis. So I hope that kind of explains things to people, that, you know, some words will work for others, some words will work for other people, another person. And just because I coach a straight back doesn't mean that's what I'm necessarily after all the time. I coach a straight back purely to stop people from relaxing, and have a conversation with someone. If you hear the coach or the trainer say something, have a conversation with that person if you're concerned, and see what they were actually after. Because I think that's part of the world we miss on. This person said this, this person said that, this is wrong, this is wrong. And just talk to someone, just find out what they actually mean, because that's the reality of the world. Okay, so quick one, quick rant, that's fine. One take, off we go. Peace.